Good afternoon.
Hello, Rangita. How are you?
I'm very well. Good afternoon, Naheed. Women's rights, as we know, face a perilous future in Afghanistan, but today we will focus on the unfinished legislative agenda. As you know, despite many shortcomings over the last 10 years, you have been in the forefront of fighting fiercely as a parliamentarian, as the chair of the Women's Rights Commission. You have fought fiercely to usher in some of the most important laws that now are being rolled back. So this afternoon in our conversation, I want you to discuss some of the ways in which you have supported, championed, and fought for a legislative agenda which is now at risk. So let's start with the domestic violence law, which I think is probably one of the most important laws in Afghanistan, and one that was passed as an executive order in 2009. But recently, you worked on creating safe houses as well as strict regulations for polygamy. And so these new regulations have strengthened the executive order on domestic violence and are now at risk. So can you very briefly explain to me about some of those new provisions in the law?
Thank you, Rangita, for having me. Yes, and also thank you for the nice introduction. It's very kind of you. Actually, Afghanistan is experiencing one of the hardest period of the time in the history, especially for women of Afghanistan, that the last 2 decades of achievements, including the laws that you mentioned, are all demolished, all destroyed because of the Taliban takeover. So we are still in the shock. We are still, we don't know why it happened. We don't know how it happened. We don't know what we can do to reverse it. And I think it is too late to reverse whatever happened. One of the most important achievements that women of Afghanistan had was in the area of legislation. And one of those legislation was this law of elimination of violence against women that worked mostly on domestic issues related to women at home, related to women's right to decide about their right to study, their right to work, their right to choose their life partner. And this area that was very, very private throughout the history of Afghanistan was not easy to bring it out. I mean, to work on activities and legal articles that decide about the internal issues of the families. And so, for example, the issue of polygamy, that has also in Islam, it is there. And it is not easy to talk about that issue. It's not my area. I don't want to talk about that. But there are conditions that has to be met by male to decide about polygamy. One of them is, for example, the wife is not able to bring babies, and other things as well. A long list of the condition has to be met. So
you and your other women parliamentarians pushed for those conditionalities.
Exactly, we put those conditionalities. And it was not easy because we faced a group of conservative people who decided to face this issue against us. And when we are bringing it as a right for women, they bring their own verses of Quran saying that this is in Islam. You are talking against Islam. It
So
is very challenging, very
So I
challenging.
think that is really the fundamental challenge that you faced in passing these monumental laws, but it shows both the courage and the integrity of you and your colleagues in championing these very difficult corpus of laws. So apart from the elimination of violence against women, you worked on the child protection law, which was recently passed in 2019, raising the age of marriage from age 9 to 18 for women. And I remember you bemoaning the fact that men left the parliament saying it was a Western agenda.
Exactly.
But in fact, it is part of the universal rights on the child, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which Afghanistan is a party to, calls for the age of marriage to be raised to 18. It is the age of majority for both boys and girls. So it is not a Western agenda, it's a universal human rights agenda.
Yeah, exactly. So this is also one of the most important issues in Afghanistan, the age of marriage. And it's very sensitive about women and girls, because when we talk about the protection, this protection has to be for the kids under the age of 18. When we are saying that the age of 18 is the age of maturity, they wanted to reduce it because this protection will help those girls to act differently, okay? They will devise them with more power. And that's also one of the challenges that we had during the passing of this law. And also so when women are protected with the issues like access to education, access to healthcare, access to their basic rights as kids under the age of 18, no one can abuse them based on law. And that abuse, one of the most important issues in that abuse is that they have been given to marriage without any permission from themselves. And
so it is that forced marriage. And so we are talking about forced
early marriage,
child marriage, which is really a continuation of violence against women and girls.
And it ruins the life of that girl. It ruins, because in the society like Afghanistan, when you marry someone and then you become mature enough to know that he is an old guy that is not in the level of being a husband for that girl, she doesn't have any option. She cannot go back to her family even. The right of the divorce, the rights of becoming having access to the judicial system is not that much women-friendly, girls-friendly in Afghanistan. So it has to be it has to be prevented from the beginning, from having the right of the child under the age of 18, and have the definition that based on law, every kid that is under the age of 18 calls kid, and she or he has this protection and has this law. So on the issue of universal law, right of the people and human beings, that was also an issue that raised that many fundamentalists in the parliament said that we have to reverse those
international conventions that you ratified. So on that, Naheed, on that argument of the rights of the child, I want to nudge you to speak a little bit about the citizenship law that you helped pass, because I think that is fundamentally a law that looks at the intersections of women's rights and children's rights, because the law that you helped to pass looked at the equal rights of women and men to pass on the citizenship to their children at the time of marriage to a foreigner. So, you know, you had explained to me, and this is something that is not just unique to Afghanistan, but several countries, 18 countries still lack equal rights to citizenship for women. That when a woman marries outside of her country, that she's not able to pass on her citizenship to the child, while a male who marries a foreigner can automatically do so. And that creates a situation where children are disempowered. They do not have access to education, equal access to education and healthcare and other resources, because they are stateless.
Exactly. Yeah, as you said, and you rightly put it out and mentioned, Rangita, when two husband and wife are from the same citizenship from Afghanistan, it's okay. It doesn't raise. It always raises when someone from Afghanistan marries someone who is not Afghan. And in the past, if it was a woman who is marrying a foreigner, she could not deliver her citizenship to her kids. And even in that situation, maybe many of those women had no problem. They didn't bring their problem to us. When they divorce, the problem is there. Mm-hmm. So the man leaves the family. The mother wants to bring the kids back to Afghanistan, and kids have no citizenship. And mother is begging for that citizenship. And the system of Afghanistan says, go bring the father, and father is not responsible. This was one of the most important challenges. And it happens in Afghanistan because we have a lot of refugees. We have the largest population of refugees, as big as Syria, all over the world. And this happens, they go to our consulate sections in all embassies, and they send us letters that this is happening, pass some law that we can bring some changes to the system so women can deliver their citizenship to their kids. Unfortunately, we could do that. We could pass the law, and regardless on gender, now, I could say now, but with the situation that we have at Taliban, I don't know how that laws will be treated. But according to those laws, men and women who marry someone who is not a citizen of Afghanistan have the right to deliver their citizenship to their children, so their children can have access to the rights of any citizen like their father and their mother.
So that was a huge victory, Naheed. And one of the reasons you and I are having this conversation on the unfinished legislative agenda, and we are writing about this, is to show the vibrancy of the work of women leaders like you in Afghanistan in a pre-Taliban age, that the women of Afghanistan led the legislative agenda, and you and your other women parliamentarians pushed for women's emancipation and for women's empowerment, and really were fighting at the forefront of a new Afghanistan. There was vibrancy, there was vitality, there was leadership. And so the whole sense that, you know, what has been lost right now is a huge loss. I want the world to understand the work that you and other women in Afghanistan have led, so that we understand the depths to which Afghanistan has now sunk, and the ways in which these laws that you fought for, that you championed, are now being rolled back. So the penultimate law that I wanted to talk about is the labor law. And that is important because it is about women's economic empowerment. It is about women's access to the labor force and women's participation in the political economy of Afghanistan. 100,000 women were employed as teachers in Afghanistan, but as you have pointed out, the law did not provide family leave or maternity leave. But you fought for paid maternity leave for 6 months, but you also fought for something even more fundamental, which is toilets, girls' and women's toilets in schools as well as in the ministries. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought the issue that there was a leadership in Afghanistan, and I was following so many leaders who started this battle before me. And as I was young and one of the youngest MPs in Afghanistan parliament, so I learned from so many women who started the battle, and I'm so glad that we have a group of leaders that could teach us how to manage and how to lead the battle towards a better situation for Afghan women. And very, very big loss, because every law that you are talking about are the laws that we had, like, I wouldn't say weeks or months. We spent years. Years of back and forth argument, bringing them to the parliament, dismissing of the agenda, bringing them back and asking different people to lobby on behalf of us, and then bringing it to the agenda. And it is
constant negotiation. Exactly. And the grassroots work that you did.
Exactly.
And the ways
even the laws that has been passed, when we were talking about new laws, they were saying, if you bring amendment to that law, then we will talk about this one, because we didn't like that part, and we want you to the one that we had already. One of them was the Electoral Law, that they were saying that we don't like the part that if the seat is empty for women and women could not, there was no woman to run, then there has to be a man to replace that seat. And we said, no, there will be a woman. If there was no woman, civil society will decide to send a woman. And it was not easy to bring all those changes. And unfortunately, this is happening. And every laws that you're talking are like our kids that we raise.
They are your brainchildren. They are the brainchild of the parliament.
Yeah,
and the role that the women played. I don't think any other country could boast of such a robust parliament that was led by women, and such a robust
large number
on gender equality. Because you started from nothing, Naheed. Exactly. You started from nothing. 20 years ago, there were no laws on women or protecting women. So you had to build step by step. So the last
on the labor law, I also want to highlight the issue of women access to the needs that they need in the workplace. For example, women personnel of security, they had to have a place to change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They didn't have it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the fundamental importance of a restroom, a bathroom for women.
A bathroom is something that is basically one of the most important needs, that someone is working in this place and they need to use the bathroom. The bathroom
and without a bathroom, women cannot work. So it is one way
and they have to use it.
Women.
You know, one of the lady that brought this to our commission said that we don't drink water and tea because we cannot use the bathroom. The whole day they don't drink. And we brought that changes in the labor law, that all the organization under the government of Afghanistan have to provide this for their women employees. Beside of that, a place that can be given or specifically given to the kids to be protected. Even mothers are working, they can bring their children to the workplace and someone has to take care of them. And also on the issue of maternity leave has to be paid 3 months full-time, 3 months part-time, and that time is to women.
So full-time, so full pay for 3 months. And part pay for the next 3 months.
Yeah, we brought 6 months, but they didn't accept. Then we had a pushback actually because of that. That 3 months should be half time or part time.
We will continue this conversation, but the final law that I wanted to speak of is probably an interesting reformist project because of the way in which it spurred a whole social revolution, and a revolution that changed not only the law, but the way in which women were identified, spoken about, and named in Afghanistan's culture. So you have often said that in Afghanistan, a woman's name was never spoken. Her name wasn't on a wedding invitation. It was not even on her tombstone. And so you and your women parliamentarians led the effort of naming the mother, including the name of the mother in the identification of the child. And what it did was that it was not only this inclusion in the identification, but it created this major change because you also launched a 3-year campaign and under the hashtag, "Where is my name?" And this garnered huge profile. It was a high profile campaign and brought together all of the members of parliamentarians as well as the celebrities. So this was a victory that resulted not only in the change in the rule, in the provision on the identification of children, but in Afghanistan that women need to be named, women need to be recognized, and women's names are an important part of their identification and of their selfhood.
Yeah, as you rightly mentioned, in Afghanistan, in most families, when a girl is born in a family, she's the daughter of someone. When she is married, she's the wife of someone. When she has a baby, she's the mother of someone. And when she is dead, she is the wife of someone. Even their name is not there. The daughter of that Fulani, or the sister of Fulani, or the wife of Fulani, not the name is not there, because culturally it was a shame to name the mother's name in the public. But we have to alter that culture, because women have to have their identity in the society to be recognized as a part of the society, to be recognized as human beings, as independent human beings that have their right to be known as human beings and independent human beings. Then we started to have the names of mothers in the Tazkara or IDs, and so the backlash in the parliament was very huge. Many didn't like it, and they said that this is a shame that you are bringing this again Western agenda into Afghanistan. Which country has the name of mom in the tazkara or ID that you want to bring? We said this is Afghanistan, and when you have the name of father and grandfather in the tazkara, mothers are saying that grandfather is respected, but I'm the mom of this kid, and I want my name to be in that ID. When you put the grandfather's name, why you don't put my name? When I'm going to ask the department to give my son or my daughter an ID, they say, go bring the father. When the father is not there, they ask me, go bring the grandfather. Grandfather is accepted in this system, and I'm not, because I'm a woman. So this came to the commission a lot, and we decided to bring this as a agenda. We brought it to the parliament. It wasn't easy. It took an year. And even after a year, we couldn't pass it in the parliament. So we brought it as
it was an executive order, and Prime Minister Ashraf Ghani helped to support you.
Yeah, he helped to support it, and it passed as a law in the High Commission of Legal Decisions or Legal Committee of Afghanistan government. But the good part of it was the people are changed, and they showed a lot of sympathy to this campaign, and they put the mother's name in their social media accounts. This is my mother's name. This is her picture, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm so proud that this is my mother. And it became a very big campaign, a very moving campaign. And it made me emotional several times talking about it in the parliament. And, the system in Afghanistan was very, very much misled. It was not really the true representative of people of Afghanistan. The people of Afghanistan wanted a transparent government. They wanted a transparent parliament that really represents their interest. And one of their interests was to put the mother's name in the tazkara and IDs. But there was other factors that driven this situation against the people of Afghanistan. But in many
so you were rewriting women's narratives. You were claiming the rights of women to their names, to their identity.
Yeah, Rangita. If I don't call you Rangita, how I can start the communication with you?
So women were nameless and faceless, and you helped women claim their names.
A very big discouragement that you identify half of the society under the shadow of another half of society.
Because they are known as the daughters, the sisters,
of
or
men.
the wives of men, rather than being able to claim their own identities.
Yeah, so and men, maybe men in the family like it because, they want to have their own male dominant system. Maybe they like it, but the system should be against that. The system should give women the authority to decide about their names, which is a fundamental right, identity, right? And the name.
This goes to the very fundamentals of the human condition, to be named, and to the very fundamentals of the universal human rights, which are inalienable and universal. And Afghanistan is a party to all these human rights conventions, which call for, at its very fundamental, basic level, the right to a name, the right to an identification. And those are the struggles that you waged, Naheed. And the reason why you and I are having this conversation on very briefly discussing these 6 legislative agendas is because I want the world to know that this work cannot be stolen, that this agenda is unfinished, and that this agenda needs to continue, and that we cannot risk history repeating itself. And Naheed, I'm so proud that you will be working on these issues, on the legislative agenda, both as a spokesperson of Afghanistan, but also building those bridges between the United States and Afghanistan, especially with the women, with American women, with American political leaders and Afghan women, to ensure that the unfinished business of the legislative agenda that you were a huge part of cannot be rolled back, need to be preserved. And the American people need to understand that, that the efforts of you and your women parliamentarians were monumental, that these were life-changing.
Exactly. So what is the American dream? The American dream is to help liberalism, right? To help people have the right that they deserve as human beings, regardless of their gender, their ethnicity, their place of born, okay? And women of Afghanistan represent that dream. With all this that we talked about, few laws, so many things happened in Afghanistan, so many things.
So when Americans say, you know, after all of that money, all of that effort, nothing changed, that is not true.
Exactly.
So much changed,
exactly.
So much change. So we cannot forget the change. We cannot ignore the change.
Exactly. And
the American people must understand a lot changed.
And understanding it, Rangita, will lead us to protecting it. When we ignore that nothing happened, then they won't help. But when they actually
know the impact of the women leaders on the lives of Afghan community is important, that you had an impact, Naheed, that women like you changed Afghanistan.
We wanted to represent a different Afghanistan and a modern Afghanistan, and lead the country towards a different situation, saying that if this country goes toward development, it won't be without women. If you want a developed country, if you want this bird of Afghanistan to fly, it has one wing right now. We have to have the other wing. And this is the other wing. This is the way that we have to empower this wing. This is how we have to educate this wing. This is how we can benefit from this wing. So Afghanistan goes towards future, goes towards changes. This is the legal procedure. This is the
legal framework. And that is why I'm determined that we write the work that you engaged in, the legislative agenda that you pushed, because I don't want it to be forgotten. We need to make sure that the world knows what happened in Afghanistan.
Yeah, this is very valuable. This is very important, very timely, and at the same time, we are experiencing a very sensitive juncture of the history of Afghanistan, because we have Taliban take over Afghanistan. Taliban don't want developed women of Afghanistan to represent women. They just want to ignore us. There is one way to let the world know that if we recognize Taliban, if we give Taliban the tools the money, right? The recognition, the legitimacy. This is against women. This is against half of the population. Women cannot participate in secondary school. Women cannot have their basic rights in Afghanistan right now.
So the Taliban takeover is a war on women.
Is a war on women, and giving them devices, giving them money, giving them the reserve that they have in the Department of Treasury of United States, giving them the legitimacy as the government of Afghanistan is against women of Afghanistan. And we have to let the world know about that. If you want to help Afghan women, do not recognize Taliban. If you want to help Afghan women, recognize women as part of the society. If you don't recognize women, Taliban won't do that. Taliban don't like us. If you say women, without women, there is no government. You cannot.
Without women, there is no Afghanistan.
There is no Afghanistan. Then Taliban will understand that they have to decide differently about women.
So this is the first of a series of conversations that we are going to engage in as we write our paper on the unfinished business of the legislative agenda of gender equality in Afghanistan. And I hope that this paper will help to let the world know about what was going on in Afghanistan and the work that was done by the women to build Afghanistan and its future. So Naheed, thank you very much. And I look forward to another conversation.
I'm looking forward to another conversation as well, and to working with you and to let the world know that every and each one of us as women, we have the responsibility to make a difference. And we are going to make a difference through this paper. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naheed. You have already made such an enormous difference for Afghan women and for women around the world. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.